Hi everyone, today I'm going to give a demo how to use the legal terms and conditions pop-up plugin from WordPress.org. So once you install the plugin, you will see a new option under settings. If you click that terms pop up on user login in the sidebar, you will get to a page with a bunch of tabs. In there, there's the first tab is general. Here you can here you can enter your license key. Once you have the license key, you will have full access to the plugin. The plugin has different ways of behavior, as in how you want to operate that. And these are the following: do not show pop-up, which is basically don't show anything. The second one is show pop-up for everyone on every page. The third one is show pop-up, but only at login. So as soon as they log in, the pop-up will show once. And if they don't accept it, then they can be logged out, right? The number 4 one is the same as number 3. However, this also shows on the WordPress dashboard or admin interface. So this is very important if you have editors or administrators for your website, that they also need to adhere to legal terms and conditions, right? So you want to choose option 4 if you care about them accepting these terms and conditions as well. Option number 5 is show pop-up, but actually on the login page. So that means prior to login. This is a pretty good option. There's a little bit of, you know, JavaScript implementation here, because we need to carry on the proof that we acquired in the browser later on into the database after they log in. So we store the exact same proofs, but there's this was quite important to have as an option as well. Option six is custom URL. So we don't care what state you're in or logged out, so on and so forth, and what your user credentials are. But we care, are you on this exact same page with this exact same URL? Then the pop-up will show for you. Quite important, very simple option. Option number 7 is WooCommerce mode. Basically, if you have WooCommerce installed and you want to show your pop-up based on a product, a category, checkout page, cart page, that is when you would select show pop-up WooCommerce mode, and I'll show you more options based on that a little bit later. Second tab is for labels, content, and redirects. Here you can set up all the labels for the buttons. What should the content be for the pop-up? What should the accept button look like? The decline button will look like? What should be the behavior? Should it redirect? Should it log you out? And so on and so forth. There's also sometimes based on what you're selling or the level of compliance you need, you can turn on a mandatory checkbox. This mandatory checkbox is basically a little checkbox on the pop-up, which a user must check in order to accept the terms and conditions. Sometimes this is quite important, and based on the jurisdiction you're in, this may not be that important. Pop-up content, of course, you can put the pop-up content in plain text, or you can load it in from an existing page in WordPress, and you can even load it in from a URL from a third party. If you need to centrally manage your terms and conditions text somewhere else, not on the WordPress website. Especially important if you're managing multiple WordPress websites with the exact same terms and conditions. Terms versioning, this is very important, although not mandatory. In some jurisdictions, this is quite important. And it's also good practice to have to version your terms and conditions, just so you know and you have exact proof which version they accepted at which point, if you ever need to show that. So I would definitely update this anytime you're changing the text of the content, or there's new compliance or something being new made. Then this is quite important to update in those cases. We have some special visibility options, like for instance, where if you have a custom login page, which is not like the default WordPress login page. You can add that custom login page URL here. You can add extra custom URLs where the pop-up would show. So if you have that option turned on back where you were selecting the behavior of the plugin, this is where you can enter those URLs. Some special visibility rules. I'm not going to go over these. These are unchecked by default. You can read them through, or we can set these up for you. If you have a license key, it does come with support, and we can help you set up this plugin. Also, role-based visibility. Do you want to only show it or not show it for certain roles? So then you can select these roles here. Do you want to track the user's IP, or do you want to track their location? Two other options, very powerful ones. By default, we turn these off, but as soon as you get the plugin with the premium license key, you can turn them off. Just watch out that you're complying with CCPA and GDPR compliance. So basically, your users are aware that you're tracking their IP. Test and debugging, quite important, but just if you're trying to test the plugin. All right, visual display. So we have the default visual display, non-intrusive, quite simple. But if you want like extra options to color the buttons, make this wider, make this taller, then we have these options available for you. You can also just use plain CSS to theme it. The pop-up is fairly easy to theme. All right, WooCommerce integration. So I talked about a little bit about this earlier. So if you have that WooCommerce mode turned on, then you have options. Where do you actually want to show those pop-ups? On the category page, product page, cart page, checkout page, or any page of the website. But then you can even add custom URLs where you want to show those pop-ups. And who should the pop-up show for? Logged in users, non-logged in users. This is based on your checkout flow. If you allow for anonymous users to check out as well, then this is quite important that you make sure you select both here. By default, it's set up that it is. So technically, even if you're a WooCommerce node, I would not, change any of these options. It should work for you out of the box. All right. Do you want to keep them logged in or logged out? Do you force log out if they have declined? Right. So some extra options there as well. This is probably the email notification is probably the most important option if you truly want to make sure that you are legally compliant, because this is actual proof stored on a third-party server that you don't control, right? Because if you're sending out an email to the client, to your client, and that as a proof that, hey, you have accepted the terms and condition at this time with this IP when you access this content with this URL, that means Gmail now, the Gmail, if they're using Gmail or Yahoo, right? But also you can send a copy to your own Gmail, but that means somewhere a email service provider also has proof that yes, they are aware that they have accepted the terms and conditions at that point, right? So this is very important if you're taking terms and conditions seriously. Now, with that said, you do need to turn this on with the license key. After that, you can automatically send out confirmation emails to the users. I would also send out copies of the exact email that you sent to your clients, an exact email to the administrators of the WordPress website as well. So you have a one-to-one copy. So I would turn that on as well. Then you can send out like even separate email notifications. Maybe you don't want to bother the administrators of the WordPress website, and maybe you have a specific email set up just for this, where you're collecting proof of everyone who's accepting your terms and conditions in that email, right? Then some more options here, of course. Do you want to get notified? Do you don't want to get notified about those emails? And the emails themselves have a subject line, of course, and a content. When you're editing content, you are able to use tokens. So these are like username token or user email token. And you can, when you're crafting this email that goes out to your clients, you want to make sure that you're using the client's name, right? You're not just like hard coding stuff in there. So we have these tokens available, and you can even put their IP in there if you want to, kind of appear more serious that yes, you have tracked a bunch of stuff about them, and this is legal proof at some point, right? And you can send out a test email. There is a possibility to allow HTML in the email. Usually I would just leave this turned off because it has a way better delivery rate if you don't have HTML or definitely complex HTML in emails. But if you're feeling strongly about that, you need to show your logo and some other HTML in that email, then you can turn this on and craft a different type of email. Generally, a plain old text email with all the necessary data is probably your best option. We do have analytics. So analytics is basically looking at how many users have accepted the new terms, how many of them have declined, and kind of giving you a measurement how changing your terms and conditions have affected your site, the usage of your site, and are they reading, are they looking at the pop-ups, are they getting feedback, are you getting feedback of declines or accepts from these new updated terms. There are some advanced options. Some here is basically just generating reports. So from time to time, it's a really good idea to generate a report of which and how many users have accepted and how many of them have declined. But also this is specifically user based. So in this report, you will see that which are the exact users with which email who have accepted decline at what point in time, your terms and conditions. This is quite important because then you can reach out to them and say, yeah, hey, look, this is why you cannot use the site because here and here you have declined the terms, right? So quite important. Then this is a quite interesting option here, reset all users. So remember I talked about the versioning of and how important the versioning for terms and conditions are. Let's say you update your terms and conditions where your legal team says, okay, this new paragraph needs to be in this new terms and conditions. So first and foremost, you change the content. Second, you change the version of the terms and conditions. And then third would be this. Does your legal people say that, okay, everyone using the WordPress website needs to re-accept the terms and conditions, or are we fine with the old users, we only care about the new users? If they have to re-accept the new version of the terms and conditions, then you would come here over here, you would select this button, click it, and that would mean that everyone across the whole website now on their next visit would need to accept the new terms and conditions. So resetting all users, that's an option there for you, right? Then there's some advanced logging. Usually this is turned off. Can be turned off if you need our help to debug something, then we may ask you to turn this on. The general state of this is off. So a couple of extra features here. I mean, it's really advanced, but like once you accept terms and conditions, we record this in the database, so you can see that latest terms have been accepted at some point, right? If you have, you go back and reset these, then you will see in here that this user has accepted at some point, but since that point in time, we had a reset of the terms and conditions. So latest terms and conditions have not been accepted yet. So we make a differentiation between, yes, this user has accepted terms and conditions at some point, but not the latest. So they're going to be prompted again. Right, when you're editing a user, you will also see some extra options here. So terms and conditions pop up on user login. We see two checkboxes. The users have accepted that the terms and conditions at some point, but not the latest one, right? What is the date that they have accepted that? There's a proof token that we store, right? This is a unique identifier. When they come and visit your website, they get tracked to this unique identifier, and this gets carried on through their actions. Also, another option is to reset terms for and conditions pop up just for this user. So you particularly want this user, this specific user, to re-accept the terms and conditions, then you would come over here and select reset terms for this user only. That would mean that they are the only ones who would need to reaccept the terms and conditions. And just to quickly show some of the data that we're saving in your database, so all of this data is going to be in your WordPress database, and every action and the history of actions will be there. So here's the table, one of the tables that we're storing proof and history records, what has happened on your website. So here are the keys, right? So these are just data points that we're saving. I'm going to go through some of these, but it's quite extensive because we want to be thorough and compliant. So user state primary key, that's just the action ID. Then we have timestamps, then the GUI ID. That's basically that unique identifier for the record. Then we do have timestamps when the action took place, the timestamp when the last action took place after the first action. Then one was the last reset, which is the user ID, username, display name, first name, last name, action, action code. Did they accept through a checkbox plus a button or just a button? Or maybe in the future we'll have other options. What was the actual human physical action that they took in order to accept it? Then we have action method, device information that we're storing about your clients, the user agents of your clients, the IP address of your clients, the geolocation, the language preference, the visitor ID, the action log, the actual page where they were when they accepted, the content of that page that they accepted. We also created a hash, a very specific hash of the terms and conditions verbiage. So basically the text that they have accepted becomes a hash. So later on, that hash can be matched to the version that you're saying that they have accepted, and that's basically a signature hash that yes, this is the hash. The hash would not be able to recreate without the exact same word for word terms and conditions. So that's important if you know what you're doing, but just know that we're handling it. Also, acceptance URL reference, text snapshot hash, the WordPress WooCommerce order ID where this happened, the meta information, and also we are now keeping history of all the actions that they have made at some point. So just to give you an example, if they come back with the exact same laptop, they reaccept it again, or they come with a new laptop, now that's going to be a different action stored in the action history. So all I wanted to show you here that this is where the big differentiation is between our plugin and any old plugin on WordPress.org to store consent. So consent is stored in the sense of we have actual physical proof that is stored in your database about your individual users, how, when they accepted, what they did, and how they interacted with this plugin, making sure that your ship is airtight. All right, so that was it. If you have any questions, then you can always feel free to reach out, and please try out the plugin, and I think you'll love it. All right.